Hello, viewer slash listener, and welcome to a new thing. We're still settling on a name for this. I think I'm going to tentatively call it, we're going to put it under a brand called Continue, and this is the Proposals Edition. And this is going to be a show where we talk about the Go programming language proposals that we find interesting, that we think aren't getting enough attention, and give some summaries. So we know it's pretty hard to actually figure out what's going on in the world of Go proposals because there's so many of them. And it's hard to figure out, like, well, which ones should I, go comment on, or which one should I pay attention to, or which ones are kind of flying under the radar. So we decided to throw together a little show that every week we will go over some of the proposals, have a bit of discussion about them, and try and keep our audience informed of what's happening in the world of Go proposals. Joining me for this inaugural episode is Matt. How are you doing today, Matt?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing great. I'm excited to record this. I've been wanting to do a show like this for a while, so it's going to be exciting. So at the top, this is the structure we're going to start doing these episodes with. It's the show structured to be about half an hour, so we're going to try and keep it to that. We know we like to ramble, but we're going to really try and dial that in. And we're going to start at the top of the show with proposals that we think you should keep an eye on. We'll have a little bit of a summary of what the proposal is about, give you the proposal number, and kind of move through those. Then we're going to have 4 proposals that we're going to talk in with more depth for about 5 minutes, kind of a maximum of 5 minutes. One of those will be for our supporters only. So if you're not a supporter, head on over to fallthrough.fm/subscribe and sign up to become a supporter today. And at the end of it, we'll talk about some proposals that we think are kind of flying under the radar and could probably deserve a little bit more attention. So with that, let's get into that first section I talked about, the proposals to keep an eye on. We have 4 proposals that we think you should keep an eye on. The first one, which I think is interesting, is proposal 24282, which is a proposal to improve the for loop ergonomics. This proposal is actually currently sitting in likely decline. And the reason for that is because we've recently added range over integers and iterators to the language, which the discussion in this proposal essentially says, from the review committee team, from the Go team, they're saying, we fixed most of the problems that people had with the ergonomics of for loops. So we don't think we need to add anything more. We're highlighting it at this part of the show because, there might be reasons why you listener or viewer do want better for loop ergonomics. So if you do, since it is in the final comment period and is likely decline at this point, if you have something you're like, yeah, I can't get that done with current range loop ergonomics, God, that's hard to say, with range over integers or iterators or any of that, you should definitely hop in that discussion and discuss it with people what you think should be added to make ergonomics better. The next one is a proposal that we're actually going to talk about in our supporter only segment. So I'll just go over it really briefly, which is 69559, which is adding a generic hash table and custom hash functions and equivalence relations to the standard library under container hash, which is essentially just a generic type of hash map. The API for this recently changed in the proposal, and that's a good reason to go take a look at it again if you haven't taken a look at it for a while. This would be super cool, but again, we're going to talk about that at the end as the fourth proposal in the main part of the show. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is 8663, and this is a proposal to add crypto passkey as a new package, which would give passkey implementation in the standard library. The kind of justification for this is that you have TLS in the standard library, you have HTTP in the standard library, you have cookies handled in the HTTP library. All of the kind of fundamental things that you need to build a web app are in the standard library already. Authentication is super important in web apps these days, so we should add things like passkeys because we would like people to use passkeys more. And it's tricky to get passkey implementations correct. So the justification is, hey, we should add to the standard library where people like Filippo can properly implement it, and we can have a solid implementation that everybody in the Go ecosystem uses by default. So if you have opinions on that, go hop in that discussion. And the next one that we think you should keep an eye on is 7914, which is adding HTTP3 to the standard library. This is on hold at the moment, but obviously, right now we have HTTP2 in the standard library and HTTP 1.1. Adding HTTP3 would be nice because then you don't have to use like an external library. I do think that maybe there's something under XNet HTTP3 right now, and this might be an effort to really move it into the standard library itself instead of being under XNet. But either way, having it in the standard library means that there's less ergonomic friction to being able to use the HTTP standard library features or HTTP features in the standard library. Okay, that was a quick rundown. I was not looking at the timer, so I have no idea how much time that took, but hopefully that was right around 4 minutes. So Matt, give me a little commentary. I'll give you like a minute. What do you think about those proposals? Which ones do you think you'd want to get involved in?
I care most about the container hash, obviously, which we'll talk more about, the passkey, and the HTTP3. I don't care much about the for loop ergonomic one, just because like I didn't fully read it to understand what they would want it to do, and I do agree that most of the improvements that have happened since then solved my problems. So for me, that one wasn't on my radar, but the hash map one is really nice. That is one that I can see uses for.
Now we're going to roll into our main discussions part of the show, where we go a little bit more in depth on 3 or 4 if you're a supporter of these proposals, talk about them in more depth, talk about where they currently are sitting, and our views on them. And to start, we have proposal number 78940, which is, the title of it is proposal spec, if cond, then expression, else expression, conditional expressions. These are essentially adding ternaries to Go. Right now it's sitting in likely decline, which I think is interesting. I can understand why this is sitting in likely decline, because it is one of those things that feels a little bit un-Go-like, but I have run into it enough times that it's like pretty rough not having it in some circumstances. So the simple idea of it is right now, if you have a string mode and you want to say, okay, if debugging is on, set it to debug, else set it to release, and then you pass mode to like a configuration object, and that's all you ever do with it. You make a temporary variable. That's a lot of lines of code and space taken up to do something that should be done in one line or can be done in other languages in one line. So this proposal adds a new syntax where you can do essentially a modified version of a ternary that allows you to set the value of something like a struct field using an if expression. I think this is pretty cool, but I do think that it's one of those I could go either way on it, because for composability, I think it's great, right? I think it's great. It'll simplify reading things. I do think if you can compose them together, though, that's where you get into that like ternary mess that's really gross that I don't like. But also, if you do that thing where you kind of have it like declare the default variable and then do if condition and then just reassign that temporary variable, it's only like 4 lines of code instead of, I think it was like 8 lines of code if you did the full if else. So with only 4 lines of code, I think the justification goes down considerably, but you do have to do like the early assignment, which depending on the shape of the thing might not work as well as you'd like. But Matt, what do you think about this proposal?
I like this proposal personally. I never liked the whole declare variable up here and then do an if else to set the variable. Like you could use a switch for that if you want to do that today. There's other ways to do that, but I like the ternary or I'm going to call this a ternary, even though I know it's not exactly a ternary. I like this proposal because there are cases where I just don't want that extra lines of code. Like, not because it's an eyesore or anything, but it does hurt readability in my opinion, right? There are times where I want to set some value to something, like, and it can take one of 2 things, if this or that. And now you have like a left aligned variable, a nested conditional for the if, and then another nested conditional for the else. And like, I don't know. To me, it's a lot of noise to read through. So I'd be in favor of this proposal.
Do you think that the parentheses around it, because there's like parentheses around the if, do you think that helps with readability, or do you think that's more noise?
Uh, I'm used to the parentheses around things like that in like new shell because that's how it does like its sort of command expansion thing. So you would like put parentheses around like variables in new shell. So it doesn't bother me. I can see how some hardcore gophers will probably be mad about it. I think like to me the bigger thing is this is probably I like want a match, right? Like I want a match syntax from Rust, and like this gives me like a little bit of that. And
Right.
I know Rust doesn't have, or at least not that I remember, ternaries. It uses like the match syntax instead. But this feels like it would give me that more elegance where I want it. But also, I feel like my next ask is like match syntax. You know what I mean? Like maybe I don't want this proposal. Maybe I really just want the match thing where it's like, you know, variable equals match this or that. Because like in Go, you have to do var, foo, whatever, then do your switch or your if to assign to the variable, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe this should just match in a hood.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for that one. As of right now, the labels on this indicate that it's in the proposal final comment period. I actually don't see where it says it's likely to decline. But when I ran the analysis earlier, it did say it was unlikely to decline, and there's a lot of comments on this, so I'm not going to try and do it right now. So we can move on to the next. Oh, yes. Okay. So yes, it's currently in likely decline. There's 4 weeks for final comments. We are basically at the end of that. We're a little over that. So it will likely be closed in a couple days. So if you have opinions on this, head on over. That is, again, proposal number 78940.
They need to put likely decline as like a label instead of having to search for some person of some significance saying likely decline in bold.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, let me not derail. I won't derail. I'm closing that tab actually, so we can go to the next. So we can go to the next one.
All right. So the next one, this is proposal number 73608. That's 73608. This one I'm actually really excited about. It's adding bare metal support to Go. So what this will allow you to do is when you run the Go build tool, or really any of the Go tools, there's 2 environment variables that are either set automatically or you can set them yourself. They're called Goose and Gorch. So Go OS and Go Arch. Go Arch or Gorch is your architecture. So that's like x86, AMD 64, ARM, RISC-V, what have you. And then Goose is your OS. So Linux, Darwin, Windows, what have you. This means that for the most part, you can't really use the main Go distribution to compile to bare metal. So if you're writing something like a bootloader or an OS kernel yourself, or compiling down to like a microcontroller, you can't do that with a regular distribution. You instead would need to use something like Tamago or TinyGo to do that. So this proposal is to bring official support for bare metal compilation into the standard library, into the standard tool chain. I think the main case for this is that it would create a potential like general runtime boundary that would make it easier to, I think, add new OSs to the toolchain itself. But it would also mean that it opens up the door to writing firmware in Go, which is, I think, really cool. And I think a space where languages like Rust and Zig have mostly been, but where there is quite a lot of interest in having Go do it. I was talking to Ron Evans at GopherCon about the places where different companies are using TinyGo, and they're actually trying to use it on a lot of interesting bare metal and in firmware projects. So there's definitely interest out there from rather large companies who produce, low-level firmware for hardware and things like that, and in this sort of thing. So having the standard library would be, or the standard Go distribution would be really great. The biggest objection at the moment is just compatibility at the runtime compiler boundary. And I think overall complexity in being able to maintain this. Early objections were that the Go team would inherit this, but I think that has somewhat acquiesced over the years since Tamago has had such strong investment over the last few years. So, Matt, what do you think about this proposal?
I'm in favor of this. I know the biggest pushback is like, what is this going to do to the Go team, the Go core team, maintenance burden? That's a big not my problem, right? Like, yeah, that's a big not my problem, buddy. But this is cool. I don't build, like, obviously I'm like, Goose Linux, Go Arch, AMD 64 or something, or like Darwin or whatever. I don't necessarily build at this layer that would require Goose none, but I can see the value of this. And I would love to, like, not that TinyGo or whatever shouldn't exist, but it would be nice for the language to have support for this so that projects like TinyGo and Tamago can focus on like compatibility with the ecosystem rather than getting Go to just work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this wouldn't replace either Tamago or TinyGo because, like, they're not saying let's add all of the microcontrollers. Like, TinyGo has the advantage of, like, they've implemented compilation to many microcontrollers, like the ESP32, like Arduinos, like a whole bunch of different microcontrollers that Go is, I don't think is ever going to wind up in the Go standard library or the Go standard toolchain. I do think that this would be really, really helpful for people that are writing to a standard architecture that want to implement an OS or implement firmware. I do think that Go has a lot of interesting capabilities that would make it really great for firmware in the same way that Rust has a lot of interesting capabilities that make it great for firmware. So I feel like it's a good first step toward that. And I feel like outside of firmware, WASM also becomes something that I think becomes a bit cleaner. There is already support for, like, I think one of the WASI versions in the main tool chain, but I think it would become a bit easier and clean things up a bit more if it was kind of more standardized.
Yeah, there's a lot to read in this proposal, actually. I'm in favor of this, but also I'm not in it enough to like have strong opinions.
Right.
But this would be a cool proposal. Dare I click the subscribe button on this? Dare I do that to myself?
Do you get notifications? Yeah.
Whew, that's just I don't know. I'm gonna close the tab.
All right.
Really cool proposal, though.
Yeah, that one's cool. On to the next one. So this is proposal 79179, which is 79179. And this is a proposal change to the runtime pprof package that would add an RSS memory profile type to memory-related pprof output. So the current situation is that right now, when you get memory profiles, it just tells you kind of in opaque terms, like, here's the amount of memory that's being held onto by Go, and here's the live heap. And those two numbers are very different, and you ask yourself, where did all of that difference go? So this proposal would add more meaningful categorization of the breakdown of memory that Go is currently holding onto. So you could see both the live heap memory and the dead heap memory, all of the stacks, all of the runtime and allocator metadata. And this is specifically not the data itself, but how much memory is being taken up by it, as well as non-Go memory. So you'd have a more full picture of what is actually being held in the memory footprint of a Go process. This would obviously be very helpful for SREs or other people that have to deal with runtime debugging of Go apps in production. Because you do want to know, like, is it because there's a ton of stacks? Is there a lot of dead stuff on the heap? Like, can I force, can I force the OS to reclaim memory here? Or is that going to not do anything? Having more information here would obviously be very helpful for folks that have to actually analyze what's happening with a Go process in production. So the main case for it is, again, making it so that you can actually see what's going on inside of the memory space of your Go program. The strongest case really against it is that RSS is physical resident memory, and much of Go's accounting is in virtual memory. So that means that these two numbers are pretty much never going to match, and that might be confusing in the output because you won't simply be able to subtract things and get a 0 at the end of the day. I am in favor of like, give me more information for diagnostics and debugging. That would be absolutely fantastic and great. So I am for sure on board with this sort of proposal. I didn't say what state it's in. Say, let me look. This doesn't have a milestone yet. It's just active.
Yeah, it's just active.
So Matt, what do you think about this one?
This one's cool. I would have liked to see more of this data, like in my time as SRE. Not that this wouldn't be useful to me now, but it would be nice to see like where my memory is actually going, because oftentimes you're just focused on your functions of what they're using, but sometimes you want to see the broader picture of like, how does this relate to all of Go's memory in the heap? And this, I'm looking at the screenshot for this of the flame graph. This is cool. And I was wondering, like, who cares enough about this to write this proposal? And the author works at Datadog, so that makes sense. So now I've connected the dots. I have connected the dots. I clicked on the profile, which is cool. That I mean, obviously you care about that because you would want to expose this to your users, and there's a number of ways that this can help someone like at Datadog make their product better, right? Because now any tracing gets this information and you can do things with it, blah, blah, blah. But overall, I think this would be a good win for those that take observability seriously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at this flame graph too. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, just looking at the heap and the stack, like that's awesome. Because then also, you don't always have an idea of where things get allocated in your Go programs, right? It's not like in Rust, you like box it up or whatever, and now you got like a heap allocated thing. It's in Go, the compiler can choose to heap allocate or to put on the stack, and it'd be nice to kind of see where that lands in real code, like with this visualization, right? Because maybe you're working on a constrained system and you want to keep things like on the stack versus the heap, or like whatever it is. So having that visibility, I think, is overall beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. And
hopefully the physical versus virtual memory thing is nice that they're talking about it. I think most people aren't going to care. I hope it doesn't get bogged down there, because I know it's very easy to go into like a well actually thing in that discussion because it's not the same, blah, blah, blah. But really, I see this as a net positive for someone who just wants to understand the shape, the memory shape of what they're building.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is, I once again, fully in support of anything that makes it easier for people to debug what's going on in their Go programs. There's definitely been a bunch of times when I look at a Go program, I'm like, why are you using like 7 gigs of memory? What's going on here? And it can be a little inscrutable to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. And this is also very fresh again. The last comment on it from the author was 2 days ago. So it's still early days. So this is a great one. If you get bogged down a little bit trying to catch up with proposals that have dozens or hundreds of comments, this is one that has very few replies. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, it's a great point to jump in and kind of keep yourself apprised of what's happening as it develops instead of trying to catch up later.
And the author recently welcomed their child into the world. So Congrats, author.
Yeah, congrats. All right. So this next one that we're going to talk about, this is our supporter only one. So if you're not a supporter, I guess we're just probably going to jump forward at this point. Sorry. And if you want to listen to that, what we just said or what we're about to say, head on over to fallthrough.fm/subscribe, sign up to become a supporter today, and you can listen to this interesting conversation we're about to have about container hash map. Now, to close it out, we are going to go through a rundown of proposals that we think are under the radar right now, that we hope that you will pay attention to or maybe investigate a little bit. The first one of those is 79427, so 79427. And this is a proposal to decouple export data formats from This is a proposal to decouple export data formats used by the compiler and by xtools. So a quick rundown of what this is that right now there is a singular export format that is used both by, say, Go Please and by the compiler. This export data is basically what headers are in C. So it gives you enough information to be able to compile another package against it without having to have like the whole actual compiled object. This is also very useful for static analysis, which is how I ran into this a few months back, because when you compile it, you get these outputs, and you can do interesting things with these outputs, like look at the API surface. You can compile 2 different packages and compare the API surface without having to do it like with source code, which is super cool. So that one, I think this is really interesting, and it's definitely pretty niche, but if you're interested in this sort of stuff, you should definitely hop in and give your feedback, or just give it a thumbs up if you think that we should do this. I think it'd be really cool to do this one. The next one is 80415, so that's 80415. This is a proposal to update Windows sysproc adder for recent process creation features. So I think that the syscall library or something is pretty, or syscall is pretty frozen at the moment for Windows. But this is to add new features that have been added into Windows, so that when you do an OS exec, you can actually tell the caller to, say, assign that child to Windows job objects. You can attach it directly to a particular console. You can launch it as a named desktop app. So you can launch it on a named desktop. You can launch it inside an app container, or use Microsoft's new Process Sandbox API. So it's basically expanding the capabilities of what that syscall is capable of doing. There's a bit of controversy around this because there's a currently non-production API that might get baked in here, so there's concerns with that. But if you're a Windows user, this is likely something that you care about if you're doing things like forking and, making, forking the process that you're running, basically. So there's that one. And then we have 74424, so 74424. This is a proposal to refactor the signers API in xcrypto SSH. So apparently there's a whole bunch of different signers in this package, and this is an effort to try and really redesign all of that interface. This one I didn't dig into too much, but I think anything that cleans up some of the stuff, especially in the crypto land, is pretty good. So if you're interested in the API of the SSH package, which I think there are a number of people that have been getting more into stuff, especially with cool stuff like Ghosty and libghosty out there. So this is definitely one to dig into, because this will affect your application if you use the SSH package. And then finally, we have 80118, that is 80118. And this is a proposal to standardize the deprecated comment tags in GoDoc, which I think would be great, because I want us to have good deprecation markers. And right now it's kind of all over the place. And the GoDocs viewer, the new thing, I don't remember what it's called, but the site will actually like properly hide deprecated methods and types and all of that functions. Nice. So this is attempting to standardize on how that works. So if you're interested in that sort of doc stuff, I'd say definitely jump in and join that conversation. All 3 of these have very low comments. I guess all 4. I said 4, right? Yeah. So all 4 of these have very low comments on them, somewhere between 12 and 30. So very easy to get into, have a discussion. If one of these is an area you care about, I would definitely suggest you hop into that conversation. So do you have any comments on those 4, Matt?
No, not particularly. I mean, I'm also trying to not keep the episode long, because I know you don't want to. So I am trying to keep my comments minimal.
Yes, please. Thank you. I think we're already over time, so it's okay. There's stuff we can cut. All right. So yeah, viewer/listener, really hope you enjoyed this first episode of Continue Proposal Edition. Really, the reason we started the show is that we want to encourage more people to participate in the proposal process in Go. It does affect the language, and there's millions of us that use it. So it'd be good if we had more participation, more viewpoints, more diversity, all of that. I would say that if you are going to participate, obviously a thumbs up is good. Don't add +1 comments. That's always bad. Don't do that. If you're going to comment, try and, bring something to the table, like maybe some evidence, a use case, prototype, compatibility information, maybe review the API and say, hey, this is the ergonomics I felt when using it. All of that is great stuff. So I guess the suggestion I have is to try and bring substance if you're going to comment on these things. Otherwise, +1's great. Thumbs upping on other people's comments is also great. It gives a lot of signal to help both the Go team and other people know if their commentary is landing with everybody else. So yeah, I'd say, take a look at what we discussed today. Let us know how you feel about them. Obviously, where you can find us and Change Zulip, go for Slack, on social media, all of that. And we will see you in the proposal issues. This episode of Continue was hosted by Chris Brando with co-host Matthew Sanabria. Continue is produced by Chris Brando, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder.
Boom.
Boom. 69559. I knew you were gonna say nice.
Your face said it all. You were like starting to grin when you were saying it because you knew I was gonna say something.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew it.
Say well, I'm sorry. Can you remind the listeners what proposal number this was again?
Okay, this is proposal 69559. Okay,
but look at the background of the proposal. Look at the proposal number in the background of the description here.
Wait. What huh?
No. Go to the proposal on GitHub.
Oh yeah.
And read the second sentence where it says background. Got him. So listener, viewer, beloved, the proposal is 69559. And of course I had to say nice. However, the second paragraph of this proposal says background. In 69420, I propose to promote blah, 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 blah. So there was a previous proposal that was named.
It goes deeper. 69420 is go/types add hasher. I'm like,
yep. So
it's talking about hash everywhere.
Nice. I'm gonna look at the camera for that. Nice.
Oh God.
But this is what the supporters. This is why they're here. They want to hear us talk about these things. This is why you're here.
That nice is gonna become a meme now. I'm gonna click that. That's gonna be a thing we use somewhere.